This is 402 Business Insider with Travis Filing and Gary Thardish on 1499.3 KLIN.
Good morning, Lincoln. I'm Travis Filing. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider. I want to thank you for tuning in. Today's the first segment here is brought to us by Wyuka Cemetery and Lincoln Coin and Bullion. And Gary's out today. Gary's kind of taking the day off. He's actually out visiting his son in California. And so Jim Ballard from James Arthur Vineyards, an old radio guy, is with us today.
With an emphasis on old. No, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you for asking me. And I am especially excited because, of course, our topic for today, which you're going to get to.
Absolutely.
We're talking about alcohol, which
Absolutely.
I enjoy discussing.
I think we
thank
all
you for
do.
inviting me in on this, on this day.
Oh, absolutely. And now you had a radio show for a long time. Were you on K-Car? Is that right?
I was at K-Car many, many years ago in Omaha. I was a reporter and an anchor there, and got my start at 10-11. Of course, I think everybody in the media industry gets their start at 10-11, but no, I was at K-Car for a while and had some other opportunities and ended up making wine.
Ended up stomping grapes for a
figure.
living. There's probably more money in it anyway. So, well, before we get into the show today, I want to talk to business owners, executives, marketers, and whatnot out there. It's about being prepared for opportunity, right? You never know when something strange is going to happen where you can jump on an opportunity and start making hay. And of course, that opportunity for a band called Coldplay happened last week. And of course, we've all seen the Kiss Cam thing. If you haven't, they were doing the Kiss Cam, and then up on the jumbo comes a couple, and then they start diving for cover, and it's like, whoops, somebody's cheating on their spouse. And Coldplay, what did they do? They took the opportunity. They started pushing their music out there again. They opened up a couple new dates for their concerts, and I think their downloads were like in the millions in 1 week, because so many people go, oh man, I forgot about them. And here they are, seizing the moment. So you never know. This is why I tell my clients, be on social media, be active, pay attention to what's going on in the world, because you never know when that opportunity is going to pop up, and you need to jump on it. And I was talking to producer David here, and he said, did you hear the response? Tell us a little bit about that response, because this is another lesson in business right here.
All right. So the CEO of Astronomer, Andy, he put out a post just about the statement, what happened going there. He apologized to his wife, the company, saying this is not how I wanted the image of myself or how I am as a business person, and all the correct things to start off with. It was going great until his last paragraph, where he started it with, I also want to express how troubling it is that we should have been a private moment became public without my consent. I respect artists and entertainers, but I hope we can all think more deeply about the impact of turning someone else's life into a spectacle.
How crazy is that? So not only is there a lesson in get ready for opportunity, but there's also a lesson of learning when to shut up.
It goes back to something I've always told my kids. There's an if-then. If you do this, then these are the consequences. And I think that was an if-then statement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's going to damage. I mean, it's going to damage the business no matter what. But the worst thing you can do is double down and go, well, it's not my fault. Yeah, kind of is.
Yep.
Kind of is. Yep. We used to do marketing. This was years ago for a major national pizza chain. And this was back, during Obamacare came out, and the CEO of the company came out, and he just burned Obamacare to the ground, which, okay, everything he said, I personally agreed with. But here's a problem. Everybody who eats pizza, half of them loved Obamacare and half of them hated Obamacare. So as a business owner, a marketer, whatever, know when to keep your trap shut, because you're going to start alienating your people. Don't want to do it. All right. Well, our guest today is Aaron Wiest from, it's Wiest, right?
Correct.
Okay. From The Still. And how are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm great. I'm honored to be here. I apologize. I have the face for radio, but not the voice for radio.
That's why we're all on radio. Otherwise, we'd have TV gigs somewhere. No one wants to look at us, especially at 10 o'clock on a Saturday. So,
Well, speak for yourself.
So the Still, you guys have been around forever.
Since 1980.
Okay. And have you owned it since the get-go? You're way too young to have owned it since 1980.
Our group took possession in September of 2021.
Okay.
So the previous owners was started by Bill Barker and his wife, Darlene. They owned a grocery store at 70th and O Street. There's a Walgreens there now.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time in Nebraska, you could not have alcohol in a grocery store. So they partitioned off a section, put it in a separate entrance, started selling a little bit of beer, a little bit of wine, some spirits. That part of the business was seeing the growth potential that the grocery was not. So slowly it took over the entire space and they got out of the grocery business altogether. And they moved to just south of 84th and O. Then in the late 80s, early 90s, they opened a second store, 48th and Rentworth Drive, right across the street from where Sonic is now.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
And then after paying rent for all those years, they built a new store in 2005 at 6820 South 70th Street, right next to the Home Depot.
I'm familiar with that one.
Yes.
It is right on my way home.
It was a great move. They were kind of on the edge of town at the time, but town's just grown up around them. And there's a lot of traffic that goes through that area.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring something up that may not be as pleasant, but jog my memory, and because my memory's not great. 21, you guys purchased. When was the skid loader incident? It was right after you bought that, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was in
That's like a welcome to business
January
moment.
of 2022.
Oh,
And I don't know if
man.
anybody remembers that, but a
Oh,
skid
yeah.
loader gentleman kind of went a little nuts and took a skid loader through your front door, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
he was having a bad day. He tore through our grapevines. We've got some trellis grapevines up front that look really pretty when they're there. He came through our front door. Luckily, he couldn't get inside, where it would have been a terrible day. It was a bad enough day as it is. He did a lot of damage kind of in our area of town. It was unfortunate for a lot of people. Thankfully, nobody got seriously injured.
Yeah.
Lincoln Police did an excellent job that day of protecting the public and protecting this individual. It was amazing.
But it was just like, welcome to owning a business, and something that crazy happens. It's just amazing.
You never know what's going to happen when you own a business. You're the buck stops here.
Yep.
So there's always things that are going to happen that no matter how well intentioned your staff are, they can't make the call. So
Were you guys open?
yeah,
when
we
it
were-
happened-
we
so-
were open for business. Yeah,
Oh my goodness. Was there anybody in the store? Employees,
There were
obviously.
employees and customers in the store, and of course, initially people just thought, well, somebody made an oops moving snow.
Right.
Well, eventually the story came out. You found out other things that had happened and figured out that this was intentional.
Yeah. As soon as
the
he
person knew
smashed
what
a
he was
cop
doing.
car.
Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't a oops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a wild day.
Yeah. That was, I remember that like it was yesterday. That was in 22.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, time flies by. Just flies by. So what did you guys, after it happened, did you, like Coldplay, did you seize the opportunity? Did you make a marketing bit about
we
it?
definitely, we got to throw some plywood up, put a temporary door in, and we had a post 6 a.m. that next morning. Things don't look the same, but we're open for business.
There you go. And ride that news, man. Ride that news and try and get some customers in.
Almost rented a skid loader to have a little sale, with things stacked around it, but thought maybe that was in poor taste.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know. Those types of things, boy, that's a delicate balance, making sure that you hit it just right if you're going to make news out of it. So very interesting. So now you bought it. What year did you buy
September of 2021.
it? Okay, so we're kind of coming out of the COVID.
We're coming out of the pandemic,
But you worked there for a long time prior to owning it, right?
Yeah, I'd been there for about 20 years prior to that.
Okay. And how did you get into the business?
So I'm from small town Nebraska. I'm from the southern tip of the Sandhills. So moved down to Lincoln to go to UNL. didn't really know what I wanted to do, didn't really know what I wanted to study. Needed a job, so I worked for the Gallup organization for a little while. I worked for a now defunct lumber yard for a little while. I kind of needed a second job. My roommate was working for Mike's O Street Drive-In, 22nd and O. And he said, well, they're always hiring. So I went in, talked to Mike, got a job there. Kind of fell in love with the idea of retail sales. It's a lot of fun seeing the same faces day in, day out. Worked for him for about a year. Then Mike retired. He sold to the people that owned Mum's Liquor at the time. The Antelope Creek project was going to impact their extant store. So they bought that store, moved their business there. And I was kind of looking for a change. So I asked Mike if he knew anybody in the industry that was hiring. And he said, go talk to John Barker at the Still. Tell him I sent you. So I did. The Barkers were nice enough to hire me. I've been there ever since.
And what did you start out doing?
I was the night manager at the time, making $7.50 an hour.
Oh, okay. When nighttime at a liquor store, there's got to be some interesting.
There's definitely a different aspect to retail sales after a certain point in the evening, and that's a key reason we legally could be open till 2 a.m. We're not. We close fairly early in the evening because we think it avoids a lot of problems. And, we think a big part of what we do, it's important to advocate safety in the industry that we're in.
Yeah. If you need a bottle of Mad Dog at 1 a.m.,
we're not your store.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, my mom and dad said nothing ever good happens after midnight.
Right.
So especially in that. But is this something that you ever thought you would be doing with your life, working in this industry?
No. And I really probably didn't think that I would be in it for as long as I have. It's almost addicting in that you get to where you are so joyful seeing those return customers that you don't want to walk away from it. There's people you've seen their kids grow up. You've seen maybe their parents die. I can't tell you how many cards I've sent to people saying, hey, I'm just so sorry that I saw that your mom died, your dad died, you lost a brother, what have you. And you might not see them for 6 months, and they pop in and they say, that card meant a lot. And it's just, we're a small town community. And I think that's what's great about Lincoln is people know a lot of the community and they care about the community.
Yeah. And
Well said.
And did you go to college here?
I came down, I tried to get a finance degree, and I didn't really know what a finance degree was when I signed up for that. And eventually I decided that wasn't what I wanted to do. And then eventually work just took over my life and I never went back.
Yeah, that's pretty common. Well, I know we got about 1 minute left here. So when we come back, I want to talk about the process of buying a business versus, starting one up from scratch. Because I'm sure you had that thought going through your head, like, do I buy this? Do I start my own? Just kind of going through the process of that. So you're listening to the 402 Business Insider, Travis Filing, Jim Ballard, and we're talking with Aaron Wiest from The Still, and we'll be back right after this.
402 Business Insider on 1499.3 KLIN.
And we're back on the 402 Business Insider. This segment's brought to us by Integrated Behavioral Health Services, Barry Law, and Complete Family Dermatology. We definitely appreciate our sponsors. So we are talking with Aaron Wiest, who's the owner of The Still. So going into tell us about the opportunity of just buying the business. Did the owner just go, I'm done?
So the Barkers were ready to retire. They had what they called 2020 vision. They wanted to retire in 2020. And then the pandemic kind of got in the way. When the pandemic happened, the national government declared that alcohol sales were essential because they did not want rioting in the streets.
That's a good idea.
So we were very busy during that time because nobody could go to bars or restaurants for a long time because we slowly closed everything. And there was obviously a labor shortage at the time because a lot of people either were getting paid to stay home and not work, or they had what turned out to maybe be an unreasonable fear and they didn't want to work. So we were working pretty long hours, and a lot of people weren't really interested in buying a business in that window because they didn't know what the future held.
Yeah.
So they end up working a little bit longer than they'd planned. But by 2021, they were ready to move on to enjoy some years of retirement. And so they'd shopped it around to a few different people that had expressed interest, but they really hadn't found the right fit yet. Well, a former employee of ours is a financial advisor, and he had went to college at Wesleyan with a guy that was a CFO of a major cattle operation. And he said, maybe we should talk. He said, we're always looking for or investment opportunities to divest our portfolio, kind of hedge against downturns in the cattle market. Maybe this makes sense. So we got together, bounced some things around, talked about things like what we thought the future of the industry looked like, what the possible downsides were, what the upsides were, what the financials looked like, whether we thought it was a good long-term investment, and we agreed that we thought it was. The good thing for me was, although I didn't have any money, I had some experience, and my partners had lots of money and no experience in retail beverage sales. So it was a symbiotic relationship. We could partner. We came to an agreement. I think it took about 6-7 months from beginning to talk to us closing on the business.
So did you have to hire a lawyer or a broker, or did you guys just go in and go through the books yourselves?
Nope, we did it all ourselves.
Wow. That's got to be a task. You really have to know what you're looking for.
We're fortunate in that the company that I'm partnered with, they had a CFO, they had a controller, they had, a senior accountant, they had people that knew how to look at the books and say, okay, so if we want to value this at somewhere between 3 times and 5 times forward earnings, this is where we're going to be. And it was easy for me to be comfortable knowing that not only are we buying from people that I trust implicitly, but people that know what they're looking for have looked at all the data and they're seeing the same things that I think that I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. And so it was the Barkers that sold it to you?
Correct.
Did they have somebody? Did they have a broker? Did they have a lawyer? Did they have somebody who was putting together numbers and kind of helping them value the business?
I'm confident that they had a lawyer that looked through things. They had independent financial advisors that looked through things, but they pretty much knew what they wanted to get out of it before they were ready to sell, and they wanted to sell both the property and the business. So it was fairly easy for them, as long as we hit their number, for them to be on board.
Okay.
So you brought what you brought to the table was that sweat equity is what you had to the table. Now, did you have, growing up, family businesses? Did you have any grasp of actually owning a business?
When I was in high school, my mother owned a flower shop, so I knew that long hours were definitely part of owning a business. And I'd worked for the Barkers long enough to see that they had worked very, very hard, and they'd finally got to a position in life where some of that work they could pass along to other people like myself, and they could enjoy some of the benefits of owning a business. They got to where they were spending about a week per month in Arizona golfing, which was great for them. And it was great for me because I got to learn some of those ins and outs that I wouldn't if they were there, picking up the pieces if I made a mistake.
Well, you had a key point there, and I think you said it very well. I mean, a lot of folks probably say, oh man, that would be the greatest job in the world to own a bottle shop. I bet you go in the morning, you're trying different bourbons and different beers, and they don't see a lot of what goes on behind the scenes.
We are fortunate. It's a fun job. I mean, we do get to try lots of great things, but my day starts at 5 a.m. I was there till 8 o'clock at the wine tasting on Thursday night. It makes for long days when you own a business, and every business owner knows that.
Yeah. The toughest part about owning a business is, I always tell people, when you're going into business, you get paid the most, but you get paid last, which means you might not get paid at all this month.
And if you break it down per hour, you're
not making as much as some of your,
which is
lower
great.
employees.
If you have great employees, they deserve everything they have. But yeah, people don't realize that a lot of times in those, and I would say what you do is kind of a fun, interesting,
it's definitely fun.
Sexy business. But there is a lot of hard work that goes into it, and you're taking a lot of risks sometimes, but you never get the rewards if you don't take the risks.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I would think too, I mean, some of those risks you ever buy, I'm sure you buy something, you go, okay, I might be good, but it might not, doesn't sell. Now you own it, right?
Yeah. I mean, eventually it all sells. That's the beauty of retail sales, is eventually you find a price point where someone will buy it.
Right.
But you're not necessarily going to make money. Have I bought the wrong thing before? Absolutely. Have I bought too many of something? Absolutely. I'm fortunate in that our partnership is very forgiving and very willing to let me learn as things go.
How many partners do you have?
It's me and another group that they're silent but useful.
Okay. Yeah, there's always someone has to be where the rubber hits the road, and then there's somebody who brings money to the equation and helps buy a business. So while I hear the music going, so you are listening to the 402 Business Insider, talking with Aaron Wiest about the Still and owning a liquor store. And we will be back right after this.
402 Business Insider on 1499.3 KLIN.
And we're back on the 402 Business Insider. This segment sponsored by Red Rhino Roofing. Steve, I saw him this morning. Steve lives down in Panama, right? And we're having a big, our town day is today. So if anybody out there is into fireworks, we have one of the best fireworks shows because we wait until after the 4th to do our celebration because we don't want to compete.
Well, we've hardly had any fireworks at all the last couple of weeks. So yeah, let's get out there and get those in Panama.
But it's like, it's 30 minutes. We have a guy, they do like professional shows, and then we cut him a check and he just brings all his leftovers. And for like 30, 45 minutes, it's him and his buddies. They dig a huge pit up by the baseball field and it goes nuts.
And maybe I'm just getting to be an old grumpy guy, but did it sound like a war zone out there this last 4th of July? It was like
every 4th of July.
Maybe I just didn't notice it. Maybe I'm just getting old and just getting grumpier, but it was crazy this 4th of July.
Yes, it was.
Even living out in the country, we could hear it all.
But yeah, I was leaving town and Steve calls me. He goes, hey, can I put a Red Rhino sign up in front of, all the places that we've done work for you? And I go, yeah, knock yourself out. And so I pull down Main Street, and I got about 9 properties on Main Street, and he's worked on every one of them, done the roofs. And it was like carpeted, man. There were signs from one end of town to the other. So other sponsor of this segment is the UPS store, another great outfit right here in Lincoln, locally owned. They help small businesses. They do business cards. They did our business cards for the 402 Insider. They did our fat heads, which were hilarious. But they do signs, they do brochures, they do everything. So appreciate you guys. So we are back. We're talking with Aaron Wiest from the Still, and we were kind of off the air. We were joking. I went in. We were talking about sometimes you buy that product that doesn't work. And there was a Buckman's. Is that Buchanan's? They had this pineapple scotch. So I'm a scotch drinker. And I'm like, okay, it's on sale, which probably should have been an indicator of maybe not. And I thought this could be really good or really strange. And it's good, bad, and strange all at the same time. It's different.
Conceptually, it's a brilliant idea. Scotch has some smoky notes. Everybody knows grilled pineapple is delicious. There's some sort of crossover there. You either need to build a very specific cocktail out of it, or you've got to be really, really enamored with a boozy, smoky pineapple.
Yeah, it was different. I poured a glass. I threw it on some ice. I'm like,
is that your way of saying it was not your cup of tea? It was different.
Not. It was not.
The good news is we got a couple hundred other scotches you can come try.
Yeah.
We'll find you something you will like.
How much of that do you have left, Aaron? How much of that?
There's still a few cases if anybody's looking for a great deal on some pineapple scotch.
Well, we sold it well this morning, didn't we?
I would say, though, I I would, if you're even remotely interested, go get it because it's not uber expensive, and I'm sure you could make him a deal.
No, and you could definitely make a fun kind of riff on a smoky old fashioned or something out of it.
Yeah. But I really, me personally, loving bourbons and scotches, and I just love it straight. I remember when Crown came out with their first flavored something or other. I'm like, I'm going to give this a try. I don't know if it was maple or something. And you take a pull and you're like, oh man, this is good. And then you take another pull. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. And about the third time, it's like, okay, I got to go brush my teeth.
Sweet kind of builds, so you got to be careful with sweet.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Which is an interesting question. When you're looking at product, are there do you look at trends of what's going on? Do you listen to the distributors? Do they give you good insight? Is it your personal taste? I mean, how do you know if something's going to fly? Because in this industry, there's something new coming out every second.
There's new stuff constantly, and you don't always know. We're fortunate we get to try a lot of things beforehand. So we do make some judgment calls based on our own tastes. You definitely look at the trends. Bourbon's been hot for 20 years and it's starting to cool off. And the thought process is that tequila is going to be the next big thing. We haven't quite seen that here yet, but sometimes Nebraska's a little behind the curve trend-wise. Things tend to start on the coast and then kind of move inland. But when it all comes down to is what the consumer here locally is interested in, we need to serve them by stocking what they're interested in. So whether we like it or not, if that's what they want to buy, we need to have it.
It's good advice.
So do you bring in like a lot of because your guys really know their stuff. Do you bring everybody in when somebody comes in to sell you a new concept or a new product and everybody takes a pull and goes, okay, I like it, I don't like it?
We absolutely want all of our staff to try as much as they can. So whether we're doing an in-store tasting, we did a wine tasting Thursday night, we made sure all the staff tried all the wines so that they know what Schramsberg Blanc de Noir tastes like, what Camus Cabernet tastes like, whatever we were sampling. And then when suppliers are offering things, even if we're not going to do it, we want to make sure people are trying it so they know what it is, what it tastes like, why we didn't go that direction. And then I think there's a mistake that people make. You'll see a restaurant open a bottle of wine once in a while and the customer will say, oh, this is flawed. And they'll take it away right away. What we like to do is show everybody, hey, here's a bottle of wine that's corked. It's cork taint. Smells like grandma's basement or wet cardboard. Well, we want everybody in the store to smell that wine, to taste that wine, so that they understand what the problem is and what to look for. So if a customer is describing a problem, they know what they're describing.
Do you take applications just from general public to help you with these tastings? I mean, I would be more than happy to
come in anytime you want, Jim.
Jim's over here putting his resume together.
Which brings up another point. And you kind of be honest with us. What we're seeing right now, a trend, I think, here in Lincoln and Omaha and around the country is we're getting a lot of these big box stores in. Mm-hmm. I call them the Walmarts of alcohol. And I know the Still, your business isn't small by any means, but it's not quite as big as some of these other box stores. What's your perception and how do you counter that? And I think one of the ways that you just mentioned is your staff is very well versed in what's going on with all those different products and can be very helpful in making decisions. But how do you view these stores coming in? Is it competition? Is it just another part of the segment? Is it, and I know that anybody in business, if you're afraid of competition, you shouldn't be in business, but give us your thoughts on that.
So competition's always been fierce in the spirits industry. We provide a product that's a want, not a need. So the consumer is very careful with their spendable dollars. There's a new player in town, the old Sears building. They're very big. They're very powerful in the industry. We don't think that being big is necessarily the best thing for the consumer. We believe that we're big enough to serve the consumer, but we're still small enough to care about that consumer. They're not just a number to us. and we care deeply about our customers and our community. We think that small business is really important. We think it's the cornerstone of the local economy. I don't know if everybody knows this, but nearly half of the workforce in the U.S. works for small business. We're proud to be locally owned and operated. We love recommending other products from local vendors to consumers that wouldn't necessarily make it on the shelves at a big box store. We love talking about James Arthur Vineyards. We love talking about Empyrean Brewing or Zipline Brewing. There's all kinds of great local providers of delicious products.
And do a lot of these big box stores, do they, because training has to be a massive part of because when I go in and I'm standing there and I'm looking at rows and rows of scotch, your guys know something about dang near every bottle that's there. That has to be a ton of training.
We definitely take training seriously. We want to make sure that everybody's trying things, even if it's not in a genre that they like. I'm not a huge Malbec lover, but I've got to try all the new Malbec so I know which ones I'm going to recommend for people that are looking for Malbec.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we think training is very important. We think both in tasting and just learning about, products, processes, how things are made. If you haven't been to the local winery or the local brewery or even a distillery to see how the product's made, go check them out. I mean, it's awesome. The process is amazing. You're basically talking to farmers, and then they're making this product that's shelf stable for longer than what the base materials would be stable for.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we love everything from the processes to the backstory of products to just the general enjoyment.
See, and I think part of this too, you almost as a consumer have to be comfortable talking with, because you go into a big box store, no matter what it is, grocery store, hardware store, doesn't matter. We've kind of trained ourselves to quit asking questions because this guy doesn't have the answer. And I'm just going to sit here and waste my time with conversation. As consumers, especially at your store, I've learned this the hard way, is you have to really be able to communicate what you want and what you're looking for. Because I went in, this was, about a year ago, and I was looking at the scotches, and the guy goes, "What are you looking for?" I said, "I like things that are really smoky." And he goes, "Okay, well, and he asks a couple of questions, and I was short because I'm sitting here going, how much does this guy know about scotch, right? So I went home with a bottle of Cal Isla.
Yeah.
Oh, baby. I got campfire in a bottle, right? But I want smoky. And he's like, okay, well, the guy obviously knew his stuff, and I was not giving him credit for knowing his stuff. And I went home I actually enjoy it. You got to be in the mood for it because it is campfire in a glass. But it's one of those, you really have to, and scotch especially, man, there's north, there's the coastal, there's so much in scotch. What does the training look like? And do you have somebody who's a scotch expert, or is everybody?
I think we've got people on staff that probably drink more scotch than other people on staff. And obviously they're ones that we lean on things, but everybody on staff should know that Highland scotches are going to give you more heathery honey notes, and stuff from the Islay is going to be that smoke, that peat, that iodine. The lowland scotch, you're going to get some almost Band-Aidy characteristics.
What is a Band-Aidy character?
Think of a Band-Aid that gets wet, you smell it.
Okay.
Is that a good description?
I think that's an excellent description.
Yeah, and it's kind of got either Band-Aidy or kind of mousy smell to it, which some people like.
Yeah.
Some people like. You talk about wines, you got barnyard smells. Sometimes people enjoy that. We were talking earlier, when I was growing up, we'd go into the hay fields in the summer, and that's where my dad was from Valentine, and that was our summer vacation. And there's some wines and some different alcohols that kind of have that hay smell that some people don't like, but to me, that brings back great memories, and I enjoy it. So Band-Aidy, it's not always great, but sometimes people enjoy that. So
Yeah.
Is that a fair description?
I think that's an excellent description.
So back to competing with some of these and grocery stores. Now you have grocery stores that they're putting in aisles of bourbons and
Sure.
scotches and everything else. And it's I look at it and I don't even go into them anymore because there seems to be no expert. There's just nobody who's going to help me. And if you go home with the wrong bottle, you could spend a lot of money on the wrong bottle.
We've got some great grocery stores in Lincoln. We're fortunate. We've got some locally grown grocery stores that do a nice job. And there's a convenience factor there for the consumer. Our argument is if you need something to actually work perfectly, to pair correctly, to be the right item for what you're looking for, make sure you're talking to somebody that knows what they're talking about. Don't just pick up whatever's at the end of the ketchup aisle and think it's going to be the right thing for your anniversary dinner.
Yeah, you're not going to luck into it. And wine has to be probably the most complex, I would think, because wines kind of run the gamut, don't they?
There's, thousands of different grape varietals out there. There's so many different things that affect the end quality of the wine. Everything from the microclimate where it's grown, the soil composition, vineyard management, oak treatment, you name it, what kind of fining it goes through. So you can have wine that runs the gamut taste profiles from cloyingly sweet to bone dry, sucks the moisture out of your teeth, from very fruity to very minerality and acidic characteristics. There's a plethora of options.
Now, be honest with us. Do you ever go into any of these other stores to see what your competition's doing and to look at pricing and to look around?
Well, I'm in a grocery store periodically because I obviously like to eat, so I'm required to pick up food once in a while. I when I travel outside of the state, I obviously like to see what other retail stores are doing. I've been in other retailers, locally, and I don't have anything against the other locally owned stores. I've had a pint of beer at Moran's before, back when Eric and Travis owned Moran's over there on A Street. I think Kevin Meyer does a great job at Meyer's Cork and Bottle. There's lots of great local stores. I don't have anything against them. I worry about the predatory aspect of some big box stores that are moving into the state.
That could be nerve-wracking because I see a lot of small towns where you'll get a big box store, national box store will roll into town, and then they cut the prices next to nothing, and the local grocery store owner disappears, and then the prices get jacked up. It's very predatory is the right word for it, and that would be a nerve-wracking part. So what are you doing to make sure that you don't, I don't want to say fall victim, but you don't lose ground to some of these big box type stores?
So obviously we think it's very important to be competitive on price, but we don't think price is the end all be all. We think that customer service is very important. And we think that having that curated selection, there's stores that can have everything. They could have every wine under the sun. But if 20% of those wines are not delicious, what's the point of having them? We want to make sure that we're selling things to the consumer that they're going to enjoy. So we think that curated selection is important.
And matching people up. Do you get people? I'll share. Well, I know we have 1 minute left, so I will share my story, and then we'll come out with your answer on the backside. So when I got engaged, we went to Napa Valley. Didn't know one thing about wine, right? And so we're just kind of going through, hitting some wineries, and I walked into, I won't say it's a pretty popular brand now, but and I went in and we were doing some wine tasting, and I said, we like the rose colored wine. That's what I said, right? Which you don't say in California to these snooty, and so they made me feel like an idiot. And you kind of walked out of this vineyard going, I feel so stupid. So if somebody is new to wine, to whatever it is, what do you guys do to help those consumers out? We'll get your answer right after these commercials. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider, and we're talking with Aaron Wiest from The Still, and we'll be back right after this.
402 Business Insider on 1499.3 KLIN.
And we're back on the 402 Business Insider, talking with Aaron Wiest over at The Still, and here with Jim Ballard today from James Arthur Vineyards, filling in for Gary. Hope he's having a good time out in California. I don't know if that's possible. Is it possible to have a good time in California?
It depends on where you're at, but maybe not. Maybe not. Unless he's in Napa and he's getting better treatment than you did.
No, I think he's in San Francisco.
Okay.
But kids, grandkids, so that's always a good time.
As long as he's visiting family, it's all good.
So I did. I went into this winery. They made me feel like a fool. I have not bought a bottle of wine from this outfit since. That's been 25 years, which, my liver will tell you that's, they got to feel that. I don't drink that much, but so what do you do? Somebody who's brand new, and looking to get into wine, get into, distill, spirits. What do you guys, do you do anything specific?
Well, first of all, we try not to be pretentious with the consumer. There's a lot of an intimidation factor with wine, especially. There's wine grapes that are really hard to pronounce. When you come in looking for a Gewürztraminer, that's not the easiest wine name to say. And people don't remember, am I supposed to chill this wine? Am I supposed to drink it out of a special glass? There's all sorts of things that can increase the level of enjoyment of wine, but Jim can attest to this, that drinking wine out of a paper cup, out of a coffee mug, out of anything, any sort of vessel you can come up with is more fun than not drinking wine at all.
Let's say, how'd you know I was doing that with that coffee mug there? It's as long as you can find some vessel to put it in, it's good.
I always think of the Blues Brothers scene, right? When they went into the fancy restaurant, wrong glass, sir. And he just kind of shakes it like, fill it up. We're good.
But I will tell you, I don't know if anybody's ever done this, and Aaron, you've probably done this, but a glass can make a huge difference.
A glass makes a huge difference. The right glass can really put a great wine over the top. It can place it right in the right spot on the palate. It definitely can help it open up. That being said, I've drank some great wine, poolside in a Ramada Inn out of a paper coffee cup.
I've been there. The funny, one of the tricks that I learned was actually from, I don't know if it was you or one of your guys that was years ago at a tasting at your store. And I went to smell it, and he goes, open your mouth, put it under your nose, open your mouth, breathe through your mouth, not your nose, because you'll burn your nose. And it's like, that's a trick that I've used ever since, and it's a different experience.
There are a lot of little tricks like that you could use, and not just wine, but any alcohol. I mean, it really enhances the experience of drinking it. Like we talked about, if it's in a Riedel glass and you do the certain things like you just talked about, it can really enhance that experience. But not everybody takes the time to do that. Sometimes you just pour and go, it's pour and go. But I was going to ask you, and I'm really interested in finding out your thoughts on this. When we look at trends in the alcohol industry, and I read a lot of trade journals and magazines and things that are going on out there, what I'm seeing right now is that wine sales are down, beer sales are down, spirits, you mentioned it earlier, have been strong. I haven't seen those going down as much. And there are certain things that are going on right now in the industry. Ready to drink cocktails are huge. We just went through the seltzer phase, which I think is starting to fizzle right now. And we can talk a whole segment about this, but THC drinks are becoming huge.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
That is affecting everybody in our industry. If we get into the marijuana discussion, if that's ever legalized, when that is legalized in Nebraska, that's going to have a huge effect on both of our industries at the retail and at the production level. But I think one of the things I've seen also is that young people are curious about drinking, but they're not drinking as much. And I don't know if that's something that you've seen, and not to say that's a bad thing. I just think that you've got these no drink Novembers and dry Januaries and things like that, and the health concerns that are out there. What are some of the trends you're seeing at the retail level across the whole gamut of products?
So generationally, Gen Z has not onboarded with beverages as quickly as their grandparents did. I'm not sure what all the reasons are. I think part of it is inflation has sapped them from some of their buying power. They're not in as good a position as maybe their parents were at that age, and the products are more expensive than they've ever been. Because again, inflation's just driven up the cost of everything. So that's definitely affecting the industry as a whole. I think it's probably affecting wine more than beer and spirits. Wine is something that you open a bottle and you drink it that night. You can open a bottle of Travis's Scotch and drink it, 2 years from now, it's still going to taste delicious. Wine is very perishable. So when people are not repeat drinking bottles of wine, you're not moving through the tonnage of grapes that are being produced as quickly as you need to. Currently, they're estimating that California needs to rip up about 60,000 acres that are under vine just because there's overproduction, which sounds terrible for the wine industry. The good news is that when they rip up acres, they're not going to rip up the best grapes. They're going to rip out the stuff that's just made for tonnage. It's a grape. Doesn't matter what it is. It's something that's crushable. So the overall quality of wine is going to increase due to this, which hopefully helps onboard some of those people who haven't tried great wine because they're afraid of the category. They find it intimidating, or they don't have the financial resources right now. It'll bring the price on better quality wine down. And hopefully that means more people get into it, find out wine makes life so much more fun. It makes meals,
Hallelujah. Preach it, brother. Preach it.
it makes
Testify.
meals more
There you go.
enjoyable. It makes celebrations more enjoyable. It's great. And I'm not saying you've got to be a wine drinker. You can drink beer. You can drink, gin and tonic. We don't care. We want you to enjoy your life in a healthy way.
And that's where getting somebody who has experience, who can walk you through that next step, because I always said, like, we all started drinking wine coolers and Boone's Farm and all that, whatever it is. But we didn't stay there. And so you almost need a guide that's going to take you into those next levels to know what you're looking for. And that's something that I just absolutely love about your store and your people in particular is they're going to help you, guide you to that next step. Is there anything as far as trends go? I know the THC marijuana thing is coming. Is there any other trend? There seem to be a lot of fruity beers now that are coming out, which are weird. Well, they are for me anyway.
There's plenty of fruity beer. People like to make fun of fruity beer. Keep in mind, there's been fruity beer for thousands of years. The Egyptians were making fruity beer. As categories go, beer sales are kind of flat. The outlier there being non-alcoholic beer has really seen huge momentum probably the last 5-6 years. Part of that's younger people not onboarding with the alcohol side of the business. Part of that is people trying to be maybe a little more health conscious coming out of the pandemic. There's a lot of people that were working from home that, as Jim mentioned, you can put lots of different things in a coffee cup, may have gotten themselves into a little bit more of a habit than they found they were comfortable with during the pandemic. So this is a way for them to kind of take a step back part of the time and ease up on what they're doing. If we look at wine, we know wine sales are not keeping up with production right now. So we're going to see some fixes there, whether it's just in the elimination of production or whether we get some people onboarded faster than we think. On the spirit side, bourbon's slowing down. Vodka, tequila, gin are still running really strong. So spirits is still seeing good momentum. A lot of that is because of that ready to drink category, though. We got really accustomed to having easy access to whatever our favorite mixed cocktail was on demand during the pandemic when everybody came out with these ready to drink cocktails because you couldn't go see your local bartender or mixologist.
That's interesting. Well, we got another break coming up here, so we're going to run to that. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider. We're talking with Aaron Wiest from The Still, and we will be back right after this.
402 Business Insider on 1499.3 KLIN.
And we're back on the 402 Business Insider. This segment brought to us by the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. If you are a business owner or an executive or a salesperson, you got to join the Chamber of Commerce. They have incredible networking events. They're a great organization. Really help your business. And the Lincoln Airport is our other sponsor for this segment. I know Gary went out of the Lincoln Airport on, I think, Tuesday. He was looking forward to an early flight and a little bit of extra sleep. So there you go. We're back. We're talking with Aaron Wiest from The Still. One question I have, there seemed to be, for the longest time, like a bunch of small microbrews, and then there were small distilleries. I remember I was back home. I grew up in Cleveland, and I was walking through the store, and there was this bottle. It was gorgeous, right? And it had kind of the Cleveland written sideways, and it was etched, and it had the skyline, and I'm like, oh, this is a cool look. It attracted you. Never heard of this outfit before. And then I read the bottle, and this is where I go, duh, I'm such an idiot. It said, Cleveland it's a hard town. It's blue collar. And we just wanted to capture the essence of Cleveland and put it in a bottle, which they did. It was awful. But I mean, this stuff was so bad. You couldn't even mix it. If you put it in with a cola, you ruin the cola. I mean, it was that bad. But it seemed to be like, for the longest time, everybody with a copper pot was making whiskey. Is that trend still going? Are we seeing a lot of that increase, or is it slowing down?
I think you're going to see a lot of distilleries either go bankrupt or consolidate in the next 10, 15 years, especially in the whiskey category. It just became overbuilt during the boom times. And this isn't the first time we've seen boom times in the whiskey business. I mean, whiskey kind of died off in the 60s. Vodka became hot. James Bond brought his martini drinking British folks with him. And there were times when distilleries either went bankrupt. I mean, Pappy Van Winkle, probably the most famous bourbon out there nowadays, is not owned by the family that owned it at the time because they literally couldn't afford to keep the distillery. So you're going to see consolidation in the industry, not just in distilleries, but in breweries. We've already seen some of that. You're going to see it in wineries too. You've seen it in wine portfolios. Constellation Brands just sold off a pretty good chunk of their wine portfolios, kind of some lower tier brands you've heard of, like Maomi Pinot Noir. They just sold to the wine group. So there's going to be changes. There's going to be ripple effects for years to come. You saw local breweries. Maybe there were too many local breweries. Maybe there were more local breweries than a town Lincoln size can support. So unfortunately, we saw like Cosmic Eye close. It's just the nature of business. I don't want to say it's a zero-sum game, but there are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. And, right now, Zipline's a winner, or if we look at the Omaha market, Cross-Drain's a winner. Thereby, there's somebody that's not selling beer.
Yeah. So how do you, as a business, because we all are we're not in the same industry, but we're all in the same spot, trying to stay ahead of trends, trying to see what's coming and preparing for it. So how do you prepare? Like, do you see, okay, well, I'm going to maybe not buy as many small distilleries or brands or offerings or beer or wine? What do you do?
Yeah, so there was a time when any new whiskey would sell. Didn't matter what it was. If you brought a new whiskey in the store, people were going to buy it. Same if you bought a whole barrel. You can buy a single barrel of whatever, call it Jack Daniels, and people would flock in to buy. You'd sell out of a barrel maybe in an hour. And I think that ship has sailed. So the consumer's being more discerning now. So I think the key to keeping that consumer engaged is giving them the opportunity to try things that they haven't tried. We're a big believer in try before you buy, because we don't like people to go home and then be disappointed. We like them to know that whatever they're getting, they're going to be happy with. And a guarantee for that is to let them try it first. You know, if you wouldn't, if you were booking a wedding, you wouldn't tell the caterer to just make whatever. You want to try the menu beforehand.
Yeah. So one thought I had too is, like, when it comes to distilleries pricing, the sales rep comes in. Perfect example. I like Bibb and Tucker, right? Which is, it's a good drinkable bourbon. When it first came out, it was like $29 a bottle. Bargain. And then within a year, it was like $90 a bottle. Same stuff. And you go, oh, hold on. This it's a great bourbon, but is it that great? And then the prices come back down. Do you, when these guys come in to sell you the product and the prices go through the roof, do you talk with them? Do you negotiate with them? Do you go, I'm not buying it at this price? Or what, how do you handle those situations?
So there's definitely things that the price does not make sense on. And some of those are structural within just the cost of the production process. Some of those are blue sky. You know, a distillery is riding a wave and they can make a fortune on, you know, maybe an okay tequila in a really pretty bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's important to evaluate when you're bringing things in. That being said, if people want to buy really pretty, you know, ceramic bottles of tequila, we want to sell them, even if we don't necessarily think that it's 4 times as good or 5 times as good as a $50 bottle of tequila.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of have those people who drink brands no matter what it is, and they're going to want it. But does it alter how much you buy?
I think you're always trying to buy based on what you think you can sell. So if they bring brand X and you know that you can sell 400 units in the next 3 months, well, it might make sense to buy a 400 unit deal. If you know that you're only going to sell 30 units in the next 3 months, it doesn't really matter how great the price point is. Your space is too valuable to tie up with things that you can't turn in a reasonable amount of time.
And you said it earlier, and I know we're running out of time here, but I loved what you said earlier about, and I've always really appreciated what y'all do at the Still, because you do support local products, and I love that. And what we were just talking about, but something's going to have to give. And I'm a free enterprise guy. I think something's going to give here, and we're going to lose some wineries around the country. We're going to lose breweries. We're going to lose distilleries, and I think that's just going to right the ship as we look at these trends that are happening. But we can talk about that a little bit more as well.
Yeah, we got a break coming up, one more, and you're listening to the 402 Business Insider. We're talking with Aaron Wiest at the Still, and we will be back right after this.
402 Business Insider on 1499.3 KLIN.
And we're back for the last segment of the 402 Business Insider, talking with Aaron Wiest from the Still. And sponsors for this segment are Sartor Heyman Jewelers and James Arthur Vineyards. I've heard of those guys. I think, what do they do again?
They make the most popular Nebraska wine.
Thank you. I was going to say they sit around eating bonbons all day and taste wine, right? No, thank you.
Oh, we appreciate you. We love you being a sponsor, and we love you being a fill-in host.
I love this. This is so much fun.
Very good. All right. So we were kind of talking off the break about the regulations that go into this industry. And I know you as a winery, you've got to be heavy regulated. But
this industry is so regulated, and you have to be paying attention to the politics of it, not only state, but nationwide, but around the world as well. There's a lot of things going on. And I'm sure as a retailer, that's something that you keep a close eye on as well. And when we look at this industry, especially when they start talking about budgets and taxing, well, what's usually the first thing that gets taxed are the sin tax, the cigarettes, the alcohol. And so it's something that we're always fighting, but I'm sure as a retailer, you have an association that you work with, individually you work with. Are you lobbying out there, keeping track of what's going on in the world?
Yeah, so we belong to the Retailer Beverage Association, and they do a decent job here in Nebraska. They keep us abreast of what the unicameral is looking at, what other things that might affect the industry are. But you're right. I mean, we're the most regulated industry out there, and part of it's just a fear thing that goes back to prohibition when the mob was running illicit liquor, out of Canada, out of Ireland, out of Scotland. Well, the mob's not in the liquor industry anymore. It's all small family producers and corporate America. So some of these rules and regulations are a little arcane and aren't needed anymore. The problem is anytime you go to try and change something, the governing bodies like to take a hard right or a hard left turn that's maybe worse off than you are under current regulation. So you're reticent to try to get it too involved.
Yeah, there's some interesting, Travis. We operate under laws that were created after prohibition, and some of them are so archaic, and you look at them and you're like, wonder why. But at the time they made sense. But yeah, that's something we always are keeping track of what's going on in the world, and some of the reports about health issues and research going on. And I've always been a firm believer that, and I'm focusing on wine because that's what I do, but wine can be part of a healthy everyday lifestyle. And it's such a social, any alcohol is so social. It brings people together. And, you can't sit down at dinner and look at that Mountain Dew and go, I love that 2025 vintage Mountain Dew. You can't, but you can do that about wine. You can do that about bourbon. You can do that with beers. And it brings people together and helps them celebrate important occasions in life. And like I said, in moderation, I think wine can be a healthy, way to live life, and can also be a very celebratory way to live life.
Yeah, there's healthy levels and unhealthy levels of everything. I've always said there are healthy levels of plutonium. There are unhealthy levels of peanut butter. It's just a matter of knowing where those levels are and making sure that you're living within those rules. Because, I mean, I don't go and drink to excess, but I enjoy sitting down and having a chat and have a scotch or a bourbon, and it's just part of life.
And Aaron, do you ever, the temperance attitude, do you ever have to deal with that in your store? Do you ever have to debate folks? I mean, sure, people are coming into your store to buy, but when folks find out what you do you ever have to defend yourself?
I can only recall one occasion where somebody came and were proselytizing about the evils of alcohol, and we just had to agree to disagree. There's strong evidence that a glass of wine per day is wonderful for your heart. And I would say it's probably also wonderful for your marriage, for lots of things. It's less expensive.
Well, sometimes I need more than one in my marriage, but that's another story, another topic. There you go.
So when you are dealing with people like that, I laugh because I would have offered her a job. You obviously, your hobby is not good. You need something to do. Why don't you go stock? Nah, I'm teasing. So how about tariffs? Are tariffs affecting your business yet?
So currently we've only heard from one supplier that's going to take a significant price increase. I think we're going to see some suppliers eat the increase in the short term in order to not give up market share. There's obviously some multinational organizations that can afford to take, a couple $100 million hit for a year or two just to protect their market share. The concern is we don't really know what it's going to be. We've kind of flip-flopped back and forth on, is there going to be a tariff? Isn't there going to be? What countries are going to be affected? Therefore, what products are going to be affected? It's a weird thing in that a lot of great alcohol is imported. You think about tequila from Mexico. You think about Canadian whiskey, Scotch, Irish whiskey, Italian wine, French wine, Portuguese wine, Spanish wine, German wine. A lot of the great iconic brands that you think of are imported. And it's great. We live in a world economy. The good news is if the tariffs really start affecting people's preferences, that's probably going to be good for the homegrown industry. It's going to be good for local producers, James Arthur, local breweries, local distilleries. So hopefully there's a silver lining if we see price increases for imported goods.
I think people would be stunned to know how much alcohol is taxed, because I was in the Caribbean a few months ago and bought a couple of bottles of scotch. It was a fraction of the cost of what it was here in the U.S. And it's like, you look at it and you go, wait a minute, why is this so much more in Nebraska than it is in Barbados? And you go, oh, taxes. Yeah.
Typically in Nebraska, the government's getting more money off of a bottle than the original producer of that bottle is getting.
Wow. That does, and it doesn't surprise me at all. And how sad is that? Because we're just, we're not going to get into politics. We better not get into politics.
We could get up on our pedestal and talk
That's
for a
right.
long time about this industry and taxing and regulation. But it's a interesting business to be in, and a fun business, but an interesting business. And I know things are going well for you at the Still, which has led to possibly expanding into another market in another city here in Nebraska. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we're pretty excited. We are in the process of building a store in West Omaha. We hope to open first part of September this fall. So it's going to be on that main drag between Gretna and Elkhorn. That area is growing really fast. So we're pretty excited. We're going to be in the Coventry area there on 204th Street. And it's going to be a similar concept, about 25% larger than this store. That'll give us a little bit of economy of space to be able to take advantage of some of those bigger buys, pass those savings on to the consumer. Conceptually, maybe a little cleaner look to the store, maybe not as much stuff hanging from the ceilings, but still that we still want to lean into that customer service aspect and make sure that we're providing excellent advice to the consumer, excellent products.
Are you building a building, renting?
They've been building it since about last October, and they're getting real close to being done, and we're excited.
I think it goes back to the beginning of the show when Travis was talking about opportunity. I think that's a great opportunity in an area that's really growing. And hopefully that'll be a great space to be in, where there's going to be a lot of folks that are going to be interested in getting some great product.
We hope so.
So when you pick the location, were you hoping, like, because I'm not real familiar with Omaha, is it a place that's going to, the people are there? Is it a place that the people are eventually going to be there? What's the thought behind
There's a lot of people there, and I think there's a lot of people moving there. It's an affluent area. A lot of people with some disposable income that they can come and leave with us, hopefully.
Can you make their prices really high so you can make our prices in Lincoln really low? Because we're not broadcasting in Omaha.
We could probably do that.
Well, awesome. How do people find you? What's the address, the location again?
6820 South 70th Street. You can find us on the web at thestill.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're out there everywhere. Come see us. Come sample. We'd love to help you find
any
your
fun
next
events
favorite
coming
drink.
up? Any fun events coming up?
Real
Quick.
Gin tasting on Thursday from 5 until 8.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming in, Jim. Thanks for filling in. I appreciate you. We'll see you guys next week.
Looking for more than just a house? Find a home with the